Ladies and
Okay.
gentlemen, we have Nick Nevares, one of the organizers that helped pull off the Crestone Energy Fair, which I participated in quite recently. It was an awesome event, and I was most impressed on two fronts, Nick, before I get to your introduction, that there were actually people there, and the amount of vendors there was very impressive. So kudos to that. I know it's been going on for a long time. And so a lot of those people have been, staying with the energy fair. But just the amount of vendors that showed up to absolutely the middle of nowhere, and then the hundreds of people that followed them, very impressive. I believe that we can kick this up a notch and actually, by promoting it much earlier, can probably get thousands of people there. And that is my hope in doing this interview with you, to inspire you with a few more new ideas on how to get people into the middle of nowhere, because that's what you want. You want people in this healing place so that they can interact with other real people and have real experiences. Who we have on the show tonight is Nick Nevares, one of the organizers of the Crestone Energy Fair. And not only that, he's come from organizing much bigger venues, not just this little tiny fair in the middle of nowhere of Colorado, but you come from a background of much bigger events. Isn't that true? And welcome to the show, Nick.
Yes, that's correct.
Can you give us a little background on
Thank you.
what you've done and why you're here?
Sure. I, I guess it starts when I was in college. I went to Loyola University in New Orleans for world religions and English literature. After college, I ended up producing bigger and bigger events all through my tenure in New Orleans for about 12 years. So in the middle of producing events, I was in New York producing some programs for Super Bowl. I was also producing some events for the NBA All-Star Game in New Orleans, and working with Essence Music Festival, which is the largest urban music festival in the world, in New Orleans as well, as a producer. And I was in New York for a while, and looked around myself one day and just said, you know what? I'm really tired of helping people that don't really care about my talent, don't really deserve my help, and I want to figure out a way to help people more. So I went back to New Orleans, finished up my projects there, and started out on my own. And right around that time, a good friend of mine who was had been in the hospitality industry with me in New Orleans. She had left about 5 years prior and gone and become a Reiki master in California. And she came back to New Orleans out of the blue and called me and said, "Hey, I've seen you work on energy in people through your events. I want to show you how to do that to heal people." And it was just at the right time where I realized I needed to have a change. And I went to her class, and it really clicked with me. Honestly, finding a way to help people who, a lot of times they don't know why they have diseases, and it's actually an energetic buildup. That's one of the key tenets of Reiki, is that you're helping realign meridians. And in learning how to do that, I really felt like I was helping people in a way that I'd never done before. So fast forward a couple of years, I sold my condo in New Orleans, bought an RV, and traveled around the Southwest doing energy healings at soup kitchens and homeless shelters for almost a year.
Well, that's amazing, Nick. You're breaking up. You're breaking up, Nick. So I'm going to talk for a little bit, and we'll see if you can reconnect. It's a good time to break in too, because a lot of my viewers, I'm going to say 20%, they're in the mainstream. They're at your cusp period when you were still working in the big industry and all that. You're making good money and you think you're successful, and then there's that moment, because I had it. You're like, what can I do with this money? But nobody even gives up that I even made it, or they don't even appreciate what I'm doing. And literally working myself to death for nothing except this paycheck.
Yep.
And I was like, well, okay, the money's great. I can go out to dinner. I can go do this and that. But I'm doing it alone because I'm too busy organizing all the other shit that I really don't have a social life. You've got to give it up. And then you have a fake social life with the fake people that you're employed with that you have to pretend that you like. And there are only 3 people you really like. And then you talk about everyone behind their back. And it's a big nightmare. It's a nightmare of negative energy. And then there's that awakening moment. For you, it was Reiki and that person that just was right there at the right time. And it can happen anytime for any person. But I believe that it needs to happen for everyone. If you want to stop worrying, if you want to stop making up false narratives in your head, you have to start by changing everything, which it sounds like a big thing, but the freedom that you gain, like when Leah and I decided we're going to pack up everything, we're going to leave this city, we're going to drive out west and put it all in one truck. It's scary, but after you do it, it's amazing.
But it's
the
amazing.
Kinds of things that are revealed to you just when you get to sit there and look at nature or whatever you're doing, driving for hours. It is amazing. And I can't implore enough people to do it. So take us from when you got the RV and when you headed out.
All right. So first I went to Burning Man. Let's talk about the RV. And then after that, I realized that at the burn, I realized that I was really good at Reiki and energy healing. And so that's when I decided to go and just do that, freelance wherever I could and for free. That was the one thing that I really realized was that doing it for the good of the other person totally, without any compensation, without any reason to do it, really was the reason that it worked so well. I wound up in Phoenix, and what I would do is kind of like I'd stay in a city and feed homeless people out of my RV. I'd cook, and I'd feed with the leftovers. I'd feed homeless people in like a Walmart or a Target parking lot. I was in Phoenix, and I met this Navajo kid who was really strung out, homeless kid, really strung out, bad off. I invited him in, gave him some food. Actually did a session of Reiki on him, and he slept for the first time, and he said like a week and a half. And when he woke up, I convinced him to call his mom, and when I got her on the phone, I convinced her to come and pick him up from Phoenix. She was living on the res. She was living in Navajo Nation, and so she came and picked him up. I had to pay her for it, but she came and got him, and when he got back to Navajo Nation, he texted me and he said, "Nick, I love you. You're the only reason I'm alive right now." He was like, "But I met, I worked with the medicine men here, and one other thing. So in New Orleans and then traveling in my RV, I used to have a huge basin of crystals of rocks that I would let people choose from. And in New Orleans, I had hundreds of people who would, they really just thought about it for a second and chose the rock that looked the best to them at that moment. The properties of that rock and crystal always were perfect for what they needed at that moment. So I did the same thing in my RV in Phoenix, all over the place in Phoenix though. And he picked a few. He took it back to Navajo Nation. So in his message, he said, the medicine men took those crystals you gave me, and they say they vibrate on a really weird frequency, and they want to meet you. They think that you're a messenger for the new age. So you're invited to come and live with us in Navajo Nation. So I trekked my happy ass to Navajo Nation in the Four Corners area, and I lived there for 3 months a couple of years ago. And they don't have electricity in the area that I was at. They didn't have running water. Shit, they had to haul the water almost 100 miles because their water was contaminated with uranium. It was the first time after disconnecting from everything, it was the first time where I really got to listen and talk to myself in a way that I had never done before. It was so quiet out there, and they were so respectful of that quiet, that it was an unbelievable time for me to really discover what I wanted. Because at that moment, I I dusted off my career. I didn't know where I was going. I had no clue what I was doing, but it allowed me to decide that I was going to reconstruct my life in a way that was without bullshit, was without any of the baggage that I had before that I collected for decades. And I was able to just begin in whatever way I wanted. I didn't know what that looked like, but like I knew that it was going to exist after I left that place. So I ended up, after I left there, I was in Durango, and again, feeding homeless people at a Walmart. And I ran into this guy from Crestone who, we talked about the Anunnaki. I fed him. We talked about Anunnaki. We talked about, pole shift. We talked about all kinds of random shit. And he was like, have you ever heard of Crestone? He was like, you belong in Crestone. I was like, okay, cool. So I looked it up, and I was like, oh, wow, this is like this random little enclave of people in the middle of nowhere that have all these world religion groups up in the mountains. And was founded by the guy who wrote Agenda 21. Like, what the fuck? I decided to check it out. And in the meantime, in Durango, I started asking just random people about it. And I met this kid at Verizon who was like, oh, yeah, Crestone, my uncle lives there. He lives in a shack. He loves it. I was like, yes, that's where I want to go. So it was like, I think February, and I was in this like 38-foot RV, 36-foot, 38-foot, something like that, and drove the 3.5 hours over the mountain pass to get here, over Pagosa Springs, and wound up here and have fucking loved it ever since. It's like the true sense of community and like people who really want to help. It's amazing. I've never encountered something like this where you're not talking to people on their phone everywhere. Like, that's a complete anomaly, and people get really offended by that. It's just, it's been incredible since I moved here.
Well, yeah, the cell service does suck there, but more importantly,
that's true.
The people, they don't want to look at the phone. They want to talk to you, because I see Crestone in my
yes, exactly.
Yeah, in the short time I was there, I see it as almost like it's like a scientific experiment. It's starting society over again with the truth. There's no bullshit there. And your awakening was at the Navajo Nation with the medicine men, when you were able to disconnect from that electromagnetic activity, from the source of your misery. Now, for you, it was a different awakening than for me, because I was still in the inner city when I had my awakening, but I had a long journey to get there. While I'm sitting in it, to realize how fake it was. Isn't it a blessing to realize how fake your entire life was, and how much of it was almost like a production, like a play. In order to be successful, you have to lie to every person you come in contact with. You got to pretend you're happy, you got to pretend they're awesome, and blah, blah, blah. But once you stop that, what you say to the same people that you dislike are typically helpful things. Like, maybe you shouldn't do that, or I disagree with you, as opposed to saying, go F yourself, you effing piece of this. So it's a different mindset. Once you delve into the reality of your life and you actually make decisions based on what you actually want, how can you ever have a bad result? Which is kind of why I think that you actually are in the perfect place, because while there are a few assholes, I'm sure, in Crestone, like everywhere, the majority of the people have a common ideal there. And it's back to nature, it's about community, and it's about helping each other. When each other has almost nothing, together you can have abundance if you work together.
That's 100% true. When I was living with the Navajo, every Thursday they had a swap meet. And a lot of times they weren't swapping money; they were swapping goods. So I set up a table to do energy healing for people, which they call prayer healing. There's actually a stance for it. It was, again, another place where I really realized that it's not about what you're getting; it's what you're giving, and the intention behind the gift that really makes what you're doing worthwhile. And the more you give, the happier you are, honestly. I was just telling my partner today, like, I can't, back in New Orleans, I mean, which is a lovely city. It's a beautiful city and a great city. But I can't remember the number of times on one hand that I was actually happy and had a really amazing day. Here, it's like every fucking day. It's awesome. And I have way less than I had then.
Yeah, let's get back to that materialistic nonsense. So once the time comes when you are at that flexure point where you realize giving is better than getting, and that the giving actually returns tenfold to you. So the more you give, the more you get in this new paradigm. And what I realized was that at some point, material things became almost insignificant to give away. I could give away everything that I had of this particular thing, and people would be like, "But why do you want? I can't take all that." And I'd be like, "Please," because I knew.
Well, then they get suspicious. They get suspicious of you. Yeah, no, you're right. They get suspicious and they start accusing you of shit. It's like, no, I'm just giving this to you because I want. Like, are you happy? If that makes you happy, take it, please. It's so weird. It's crazy.
And then what you get in return is tenfold. Now, as you progress, and you took a class on Reiki, so I never took any of those classes. I'm naturally predisposed to understand my healing potential. I don't need a class to tell me or pay someone. I've worked with Reiki healers, and I've done the same thing without taking their classes. And my healing technique comes from me spiritually through my brain and the universe. I didn't make it up. The universe told me what to do, which is similar to Reiki and where it comes from. It all comes from some of the holistic ideals, which some of the biggest hospitals are based on, like Hahnemann University in Philadelphia, and all those gigantic hospitals come from the people that invented homeopathy, which is now considered fake science and total bullshit. But what is not considered fake science and bullshit is the placebo effect, and also the effect of love, energy, and vibration, which is all we're doing. People like you and I can tap into that, and the people that are around us can feel it. And once they feel it, they trust us. Yep. And then they can trust their own body systems to heal themselves. Before that, they were duped by the society, the false narrative they were living in, that they were sick, that they needed a doctor, that they needed to do this and gluten-free and that and the other, when all they needed was love and acceptance and guidance. This is a spiritual, divine guidance that comes naturally from the universe. It comes from walking in the woods. It comes from walking in the desert. It comes from breathing. It comes from being. Most people don't understand that the only time they're alive, Nick, is now. The time we're talking, we're alive now. Right. We weren't alive before this interview, and we don't know if we'll be alive after. We're only alive now. Use that.
Yep. No, it's amazing to me how many friends of mine are delaying their happiness. They're like, oh, I'll be happy when, or I'll be happy in. It's like, no, if you're not happy now, fuck that. It's not worth it.
Delaying the happiness. What's that all about? Is that people's indoctrination and brainwashing into the work week and the success and the materialism? What is it in your opinion?
I think it's closer to people really having an understanding that there's one more thing. Like you said, they're programmed to have one more thing ready for that in their future that's going to make them happy. They're not Sorry, a friend of mine's distracting me. They're waiting for one more thing in their lives to make them happy.
How about this, Nick? How about we tell these people what they're waiting for is happiness. So why don't you go get that? You're not waiting for a Lamborghini. Everyone who ever got a Lamborghini, whoever got a mansion, whoever got a six-figure job.
Well, no, that's the problem. Is they think. No, that's the problem. Is they think that something material is going to make them happy, and every material thing they have after that never works. It doesn't matter how much you have. It has absolutely nothing to do with that.
Now let me see if you agree with me on this, Nick. When I wake up and go outside, and I get out there, I'm happy because I woke up. How about you?
Yeah, I love where I am. I love where I can be here. Every day is like living in a fucking vacation. It's amazing, and especially in Colorado.
Yeah, because Crestone is unique. Now, I moved to Pagosa Springs because I did some research, and this was the place I needed to be environmentally, geographically, for safety. It's far away from people. It's a great
Yep.
place to homestead. There's very little electromagnetic interference out here. And Crestone is even more so like
Yep.
that. But the most important thing that I want to get across to the people is that they have to do it. And Crestone is one of the cheapest
Yes.
places left on earth to do it. And what I mean by that is if you have $5,000, I was just looking, you can get 2-3 acres right near
Yep.
where you are, and you can literally build a hut out of your own human shit if you have a permit. And no one will check on it. And then you know what I mean? You can grow cannabis
That's true.
in your
Well, no,
bedroom. Go ahead, elaborate.
totally. No. So I'm also a realtor. I became a realtor when I moved here, and so I know about the land around here very well. So this county is kind of unique in that it doesn't have building codes. So the result is that you get very unique structures, people experimenting with passive solar things, designs that you would never be allowed to build with in other places of the United States or the world. But because of that, that's why we have the energy fair here, because people do build with straw, they do build with hempcrete, they do build with whatever, with Adobe, in a way that they're not allowed to or able to experiment in other places. So you're right. Now, I've never seen a hut made of shit, but I'm sure it would stand up great to the lack of rain here.
I was being facetious, but there are also homes built of tires called earth ships. There are also homes built with earth bags, which are basically sandbags for hurricanes. And you can even build hole in the ground and live in it. So what I'm trying to do is, if you guys are confused on where to go in the United States for the coming times, please descend on Crestone. Meet Nick. Meet everyone in the town. The whole town is awesome. They have one of the best supermarkets in Colorado, and it's in the middle of nowhere. The owner is like awesome. He has live bands at the supermarket like all weekend. It's an amazing place. And Nick, you're an amazing dude. And I wish you lived closer because we would definitely hang out. But I'll be up there again soon. I'm going to definitely come back next year if I'm invited.
No doubt.
And just to close this up, because
you will be. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think that we're at the cusp here. We need to get people out to this place, which literally is in the middle of nowhere, but isn't nowhere. If you're there, you have a supermarket, you have community, you have clean water, you have tons of snow, you have 4 seasons, tons of wildlife. It's an amazing place. And the vibration, the spiritual energy. To the north, there's a nudist colony. To the west, there's a very rare national monument called the Sand Dunes. And there's an alligator farm. There's more UFOs than anywhere in the world. And there are more spiritual, religious groups in Crestone that you can imagine. So if you're wondering if there's someone you can worship with, you will find him. You will find the Christian alien Anunnaki guy or whatever you're looking for. It's there. And everyone is tolerant. They love everyone. I love it that you're a Buddhist alien guy, and I love the Christian people and whoever is there. They're in it for the community. They're not in it to be right. They're in it to be abundant and well and happy and whole. And that's why I love Crestone. You can feel it in the city, and you can feel it in the people.
Come back for Thanksgiving. The Sunday before Thanksgiving, the whole community does a free potluck. We have over 500 people. It's amazing to watch this entire town come together and be with each other. It's unbelievable. Come back for that.
I'll bring the pot. Nick, it's been a pleasure.
Perfect.
Is there any parting words? Do you want people to come to your town? Am I causing a mass exodus to Crestone?
The ones that are supposed to be here will remain. The ones that aren't will leave on their own accord. It's how it works here.
Yeah, and that's how it works in the universe anyway. Positive energy, positive vibes, positive people, positive results. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Nick. I can't wait till we hang out in real life again.
Thank you, Diamond.
I will definitely be there for Thanksgiving. Mark my words, and I will bring the weed. We love you. Be safe.
Awesome. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, get out
Thank
to
you.
Crestone,
Bye-bye.
kids.